Welcome back to Thoughts from a Bookworm. I'm Abigail Grace. Today we are talking about the Brothers Hawthorne, which is kind of a standalone book in the Inheritance Games saga universe. I'm a little bit confused. The author has released several announcements. They're not new. I'm just behind. So I think the way that she is structuring things is the first three books, The Inheritance Games, The Hawthorne Legacy, and The Final Gambit, are a trilogy. Then The Brothers Hawthorne and Games Untold, which is a novella and a collection of like short stories, are just kind of like standalone stories. Like they're not connected to either trilogy. And she's working on a second trilogy, and the first book in the second trilogy is The Grandest Game. I think that's how things are going. She hasn't been super clear, at least from what I've seen. I do follow her on Instagram. I'm a relatively new follower, so I'm like kind of trying to, play catch up and stuff like that. But I think that's how she's structuring things. So The Brothers Hawthorne is a standalone novel. It shifts from Avery's point of view to alternating between Jameson and Grayson, and it's in third person, which I am generally speaking not really a fan of first person books, but I really enjoyed the author's writing style for first person in the Inheritance Games books. So jumping from first person from Avery's point of view to alternating between Jameson and Grayson from third person was like, oh, we're switching things up. This is gonna be new. I have so many mixed feelings about this book. Like I said, it alternates between Jameson and Grayson, and like Jameson and Avery are doing their thing. Grayson's kind of off by himself. I like the Jameson and Avery parts. And as I've said before, I'm not a Grayson girly. I do like him, like as a character, I don't want to say as a person because he's fictional, but as a character, I like him. But in this book, when we're on Jameson, oh my gosh, all these names sound way too similar. When we're in Grayson's point of view, we're introduced to a whole lot of new characters who I really don't like or care about. And we're introduced to Grayson's other stepfamily because Sheffield Grayson had an affair with Skye, and that's Grayson was the result of that. So he knows that Sheffield had a wife, he had, a couple other kids, daughters. So it's Grayson kind of going into that world, making sure they're okay. She has a set of his not stepmother, what would she be? I guess stepmother? I guess she would technically be his stepmother if she's, I forget her name, if she was Sheffield's wife. I don't know. She has a set of twin daughters. One of them, her name is Juliet, but everybody calls her Gigi. She drove me crazy. She was clearly a Xander, like, copy and paste. And I was not a fan of Xander. Xander to me felt very, I struggle with this word, infanticized. He felt very childish and like cringe. Like he's supposed to be 16, 17 years old, and he's acting like he's 5, and almost every single sentence he ever utters is with an exclamation point. He says everything cheerfully. He's always bouncy, this and that, which can be kind of cute in moderation. Why does my hair keep sticking to this? It wore off very quickly. So I was not a fan of Xander. So to now, okay, we're leaving Xander now behind. We're moving on. Now we're having Xander as a girl who's Grayson's half-sister. I don't know. And she's a new character. So, like, there's nothing connecting me, nothing making me attached to her. I did not like any of Grayson's chapters. I'm sorry. I did not like that. I don't understand why authors will write a book or a series of books and then start writing a whole new series of books about different characters in the same universe. Like, if I'm going to read a book by Jennifer Lynn Barnes in the universe where the Inheritance Games characters exist and happened, I want to read about Avery and Jameson and Grayson. I don't want to read about Gigi and Savannah and Rohan and this girl on the phone. I don't care about any of them. I care about the characters that I met and fell in love with. Now, if you want to write a whole new series, okay, fine. I don't know what the disconnect in my brain is, but it's like, if I'm going to read a series where the Inheritance Games characters exist, I want to read about those characters. I don't want to be thinking, oh, well, what are they doing? I'm reading about Savannah and Grayson and Gigi, who I don't care about. So I really struggled with Grayson's chapters. I did read them. I was very tempted because it became very clear right away that the two, that Jameson's point of view and Grayson's point of view, they didn't connect. There was no overlap. There was no, this thing that happened to Grayson is going to connect to this thing that happened to Jameson or vice versa. They were totally and completely different and separate stories. So I was very tempted to just skip over Grayson's chapters. I didn't. Part of it is because I'm OCD, and if I read a book, I want to read the whole thing, not just part of it. And part of it was it kind of like built anticipation for when we got back to Jameson's point of view. So the majority of Grayson's focus is him reconnecting with his sisters, him trying to like protect them in a way that he can without telling them that he knows their father is dead, because they just think at this point that their father abandoned them. They don't know that he's their half sibling, except the mom, who figures it out. And like, she and Grayson actually do have a really sweet interaction where Grayson is like, oh my goodness, why don't you hate me? Like, you should hate me. I'm your husband's love child. And she's like, yeah, you're a child. You were not asked to do any of this. You were not asked to be brought into the world. You're innocent, my man. Which was good. I think Grayson needed to hear that. We do also get some really fun flashback chapters where we actually get to meet Tobias Hawthorne, because so far we've only seen him through Avery's point of view, through the Hawthorne grandson's memories, mentionings of him, that kind of stuff. But we actually get to meet him as a character in flashbacks. And I have very mixed feelings about him, because part of me looks at him kind of as like the Master Yoda, like he's the all-wise, all-knowing master manipulator grandfather who can see every possible outcome that any situation could ever produce. And then part of me sees him as like, you totally manipulated and mentally abused your family forever. That's not cool. So we get some interaction with him and young Jameson and Grayson. We're not really focused on Nash and Xander, which I was fine with. It was the main focus of the book was Grayson and Jameson. There was one interaction that Tobias Hawthorne had with Jameson that I liked it, but I probably shouldn't have, because it was very manipulative and like, I don't know if toxic is the right word. I don't know. But it's the scene where Jameson, he was on his bike and he fell and like broke his arm or something. So he's trying to get into the treehouse, this massive treehouse that he has in his backyard, without like scaling the trees like he normally would have. Anyway, Tobias Hawthorne kind of like pulls him or starts talking to him and says something like, compared to your brothers, your mind is ordinary. Like, you're boring. There's nothing special about you. You have to work to be special, is basically what he told him. And I liked the way that it was worded, because it didn't sound that harsh. But like, as a grown-up, older person reading it, it's like, oh, that's like kind of like not good to tell a 6-year-old that compared to your brothers, you're boring, you're plain, you're ordinary. But then it feeds Jameson's character, because in book 1, Skye describes him as hungry. Jameson Winchester Hawthorne is hungry. Like, he wants an adventure, he wants this, he wants that. And like, that interaction between Jameson and his grandfather totally explained that. So like, I really like that scene, because that fills in Jameson's character a little bit more, like as to why he's like that. But then it kind of makes me sad, because like, oh my gosh, this poor little boy like can't do anything. None of them can do anything without being compared to each other or to who they could be. Like, don't be good when you can be great. Don't be great when you can be extraordinary, type of thing. So I liked it, and I don't know if it was one of those things where it's like I liked that I didn't like it, or I didn't like that I liked it, or something, but I liked that interaction because it explains a lot about Jameson. We also get to finally meet Jameson's father, which is Ian Johnston Jameson, which is a mouthful, and I don't know why we have to say his full name every single time he's mentioned. Every single time, or a lot of times, when Jameson refers to him, he refers to him as Ian Johnston Jameson. It's like, why can't you just call him Ian? Like, why do we have to attach? What's the obsession with attaching everybody's full names? I also was not a fan of how we met Jameson's father, because each of the other three, they came into the picture somewhat like organically / there was a reason for it. Like, Nash's father was the caretaker of the house in Costa Rica. There were clues for Avery there. Isaiah Alexander, I mean, I guess he was kind of just came out of the blue. I don't know. I just felt like the introduction of Jameson's father was very boring. Like, Jameson literally got a letter saying,
"Hey, my name is Ian Johnston Jameson, and I'm your father, and I have a mission for you."
And, like, that was it. Like, there was no connection to it. I didn't pick up on any Easter eggs in the first three that alluded to this happening, or how this was going to happen, or why this was going to happen. It just felt very left field. But Ian Johnston Jameson comes to Jameson and wants him to infiltrate the Devil's Mercy, which is a super elite, super secret club of like the world's top elitists. And he wants Jameson to infiltrate this club and win back Vantage, which is Ian's grandmother's estate that she left him. Ian wants Jameson to win it back for Ian, and Ian then promises, "I will leave it to you." So Jameson then kind of wrestles with, well, I could just win it for myself, or I could win it for Ian and have my father leave me something, which again just reiterates that, like, children need fathers. They need a father and they need a mother. And, like, we have seen that in each of these boys' lives. Like, Jameson in this book so much, he constantly, the whole book, or the whole, his point of view sides are him wrestling with, he wants Ian to want him, but no, he doesn't. He doesn't need a father. He had his grandfather. That was enough. So it's just a constant battle going back and forth. So he and Avery focus on getting into the Devil's Mercy, which is run by the proprietor. And you can't just ask, hey, how do I get into the Devil's Mercy? I want to pay, $200,000 and I'll be a member. You have to be invited. The proprietor has to seek you out. So it's all, Jameson doing what Jameson does best, getting attention, all that kind of stuff. They're able to get into the Devil's Mercy on kind of like probation, with the promise that you'll lose this amount of money in, the ring, gambling, playing. There's all kinds of games set up. There's this and there's that. I do like how they set up, how the author established that within the Devil's Mercy, there's different, there's the 7 sins. There's, gluttony, where you can eat whatever you want. There's all these different chefs. There's lust, where there's like rooms where you can go into. I like that the author very clearly addressed that there is no illegal human captivity going on in this. I really like that, because that is a very difficult subject for me to think about, to talk about, to read about, to know that it exists. So I was very grateful, just for my own peace of mind, that she set up there is no human captivity, slavery going on here. So I really appreciated that. That made me like just so much more relaxed when we were in the Devil's Mercy. I was like, okay, good. Nothing bad is going to happen, or nothing bad against somebody's will is going to happen. So Jameson is able to he and Avery are both able to get invitations to this grand game that's being hosted. And if you win the game, you get a little like token where you basically can cash it in for whatever you want, whenever you want. So it's this really fun game of clues. And they get into it. To get into this game, you have to write down a secret that like nobody knows about and that is super like incriminating. Like, if this secret got out, you would be finished, type of thing. And then you have to offer proof of its validity. So like, that's how you get in. That's how the proprietor keeps his members in check, all that kind of stuff. So Jameson offers up a secret. We don't know what it is right away. It has something to do with what happened in Prague, which again, we don't know what happens in Prague, but that's kind of the basis of Jameson's secret. So he writes it down. He's able to get in. Avery's able to get in. 2 or 3 other people get in. One of them is Ian Johnston Jameson's brother, who Jameson was not told that was going to happen. He didn't know that his uncle was there. He didn't know that his uncle knew about him, which apparently his uncle did know about him or knew about him for a little bit of time. So the game starts. It takes place at Vantage. It was a very short game, like in comparison to the rest of the games that take place in the Inheritance game saga. It was a very short game, relatively simple, to be honest. I was kind of surprised that I wasn't able to figure it out. But it was very just kind of straightforward. I was able to track with what was happening, which again, I appreciate that about the author's writing style because it made it fun. I was like reading it, I was engaged. It was like, oh, it was simple enough to where I could follow it and be engaged, but complex enough to where it was like, oh, this is like what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't figure this out. I'm not privy to all the clues that Jameson and Avery are seeing and stuff like that. So Jameson wins at the end. But he wins very honorably, which I was very happy for him about. I'm glad that he had that win. He wins the game. He's given the token, and he says he wants to win Vantage, but he ends up keeping Vantage for himself because, again, another twist. Jennifer Lynn Barnes loves her twists. It turns out that Ian has kind of been playing Jameson the whole time. Like, he was just using Jameson to get in. He didn't really intend on leaving Vantage to Jameson. He just wanted Jameson to get in, to win Vantage, and then give it back to him. So Jameson keeps Vantage for himself, which again, I liked. I like that Jameson has something. I like that he kind of has this place of his that's just his. Ends with all four of the Hawthorne brothers coming back together. Jameson kind of spilling what's been going on with him. Jameson telling him, they're all just kind of filling each other. It's just really, I like seeing the four of them together. Again, I am one of four. I have three siblings. And it's always so much fun when the four of us, because the four of us aren't really together that much because one of my brothers is married, one of my other brothers is working a lot, my sister's in school, so it's like we all kind of have our own things that like are going on right now. So it's always fun when like the four of us are together and are just talking and goofing around and doing sibling stuff. So I liked that scene at the end with the four of them playing Drink or Dare. That was really sweet. So like I said, this book wasn't my favorite. I did read it a second time, and the second time I read it, I did skip the Jameson scene simply because I had already read them. I kind of knew what was going on. I knew that I didn't really care what was going on. So reading it a second time, I enjoyed it more the second time because I liked seeing the little like Easter eggs and hints of the game that Jameson and Avery play. Like that was really, really fun. So that's the end of this book. Like I said, the author has, I think I've got it sorted in my head. So we've got books 1, 2, and 3 are the original trilogy. We've got the Brothers Hawthorne and Games Untold kind of is like their own standalone type of books. They don't really go to the first or the second trilogy. And then the second trilogy starts with The Grandest Game, which I believe is coming out November of this year. So we've got a couple more months until we can read that. I am not super excited about it, not gonna lie. And the author has said on her Instagram that the second trilogy, she said that you don't have to read the first trilogy to read the second trilogy. She said you can, and there are Easter eggs in the first trilogy that, are clues and stuff in the second trilogy. But simply because of that, that tells me, okay, the main characters aren't going to be super prominent. We already know that the main characters are going to be Grayson, Gigi, Rohan, and the girl on the phone, which again, aside from Grayson, I do not care about those other three characters. I'm sorry, I know that's harsh, but I don't. So I'm not counting the days of The Grandest Game. I don't know that we will cover it or that I will cover it on the podcast because I don't know if I'm going to read it. And then Games Untold is a novella, so that will be just kind of a bunch of collection of short stories. I know for sure we're going to get a Jameson and Avery because we're going to finally figure out what happened in Prague. And then we are also going to get a story about Libby and Nash, which I'm really excited about because I like Libby and Nash. I think they're very cute. But other than that, I don't know what is going to be in it. So that is everything for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode.